Well, welcome to the first class of Theory and History of Architecture. We're going to review the cycle 15th to 19th century. It's very interesting. It's not the first time I have the opportunity to teach in this about this experience, educative experience. The last time I had the opportunity to review the program, we tried to propose a review all the themes, but with an integral focus. You can see in your program the characteristics of this signature, and then theory and history of architecture you can see is in the disciplinary area, and then the academy about it is humanity, and the course it's not a work. Welcome, please. Please take a seat. Yes?
Please can I go to slide 1?
About, sorry?
Can I go to slide 1?
What?
Can I go to
No, sorry, so you can go?
Can I go to slide 1? I
I wonder. Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay, beverage.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Of course. Well, please, you can go out, you can get in, no problem. Please, this class is recording. Please, it's not necessary the solution, okay? For that, I hope a question about the program, okay? Well, the name of academics who take the participation in this elaboration and or modification of this program, you can see the teacher Núñez Trueba, Dr. Duro Roquet from Jalapa, Dr. Acosta Perez from Jalapa too, Moreno Ortega, Niembro Rocas, Pérez Elorriaga, Zacarías Capistran, Enriqueta Belloc, etc. The profile there is important to consider because it's not only for the program of the educative experience, no, but only the academics who made this, who created this program, are teachers. For example, they have studies about the conservation and patrimonial architecture. We can see, for example, the works of Dr. Duro Roquet and Acosta Perez. They have studies about the history of the cities, for example, Jalapa and Coatepec, and the taking care of the of historical architecture, because in Jalapa, for example, and Córdoba, you are going to find examples of architecture from 19th century, and this is important because the first question that we can do is about the history in architectonical works here in this region. you can see that Costa Rica were founded on the middle of the 20th century. We can talk about the 50s, and you can find examples of modern architecture here. For example, the post office is in front of Juarez Park, for example, is a good example of modern architecture. The side about the side of municipal government here in Costa Rica is another example of modern architecture, and then is the principal reference here when we talk about the history of architecture here in Costa Rica. For example, in Papantla, we have another references, okay? And then, why do you think what do you think is the importance of studying history of architecture? Is one of the first questions for tomorrow. Why do you consider important the study of architecture? Okay, maybe it's the first homework for tomorrow. It's a reflection. Yes. The utility of history, we can say in a first time, that serves to us to getting references about the architecture, the meanings, the facts, and maybe the reading about contextual elements. Yes? Okay, and please, the beverages, put down, please.
Now, yes.
Yes?
Water,
Yes. I'm sorry, we are recording. I'm going to try to edit this part, but please. Well, pay attention. Teacher Carmen is going to see all the record, yes, and please, we need to taking care about details, okay? Yes, and then for that reason, you can see in a program we are referring the historical facts as a conditions, and the conditions maybe serves to understand the architecture. Yes. For that reason, we try to understand the architectonical object not only like an object isolated. This architectonical object has been influenced by different characteristics and factors of the context. It's a problem when we try to study the architecture, the style, for example, architectonical style, without a frame or without references, for example, economical references, social references. For that reason, the study of the history is not only to study an object without social, political, or economical influences. That happens is that the technology, for example, used to build is a result of the conditions, contextual conditions, because of materials, and change with another features to understand the technology advances through the history of architecture. And then it's important to consider all these characteristics to understand the architectonical object in your studies. Is understanding the object inside many characteristics. From this program, they proposed to review since the forms and theoretical concepts, and then we can say about tendencies or in this cases influences of Occidental architecture from this time. 14 cycle, but 14 is the last period of 14 and then 15 and to the 19. It's not only by then, not only the traditional stylistic focus of architecture. We need to get a contextualization of the object, of the architectonical object. We need to understand the object with the circumstances, social circumstances, political circumstances, and economical circumstances in their time and their place. The context is so important from this focus, okay? And then it's not possible for time an extensive focused review of each one of the periods or the styles. We can see the different times of the history and in general, and basics about the story of forming architecture, about art and about construction, and of course the global reference and history. I propose to review all these stems from the thoughts, from the meanings, from the philosophy. All philosophy provides of different characters and different senses on each stage of the history. And you can see, for example, that the principal terms we are going to review, like for example, the Renaissance, Baroque, Neoclassic, Historicism, and from the beginning of the 20th century about Art Nouveau, but is characteristic of the end of the 19th century, is more than a formal review. We can say many characteristics, symbolics, for example, structural, technical, and of course the social use of the space for trying to establish the principal characteristics of each one of the styles. This general vision it pretends to invite to get a respect and taste for the historical expressions, and then information about cultures, and of course it permits like kind of immersion, historical immersion, that for trying to establish some identification. And of course my intention is that you can detect and define the principal characteristics of each one of the styles to review, and to establish the character, the formal character, structural character, and of course to provide an explanation about the system of construction, different system of construction and advantage of technologies of the architecture through the history. Okay? Some questions? It's clear? So. Not too fast or too slow? Yes? Okay? More slow, please. More slow. Sorry. Okay. These comments I just made were about the the minimal description of the program. Yes, is here in your program, the program that you're signed. In this first class, I try to explain the content of the program, refer to the background, who made this, and I explained about the works of the teachers who created this program. They worked about history of architecture in Jalapa. In Jalapa, principle, for example, him, her, him, her. They teach history in Jalapa, in architecture Jalapa, and they proposed this. I feel it's a goal. It's a good goal to study the style of architecture according to the context. For me, that's the best focus, because we can understand how the system, the constructive system, and how technology have been changed through the times. We can understand the changes and understand the context from social circumstances, political and economical in their time and place from this time. Yes. This is an interesting focusing. Are different, but how I learned history in my time when I was a student like you. Was different. We had to study and to write memory. I would like to recover that, but I know that it's not easy. But
the homework is
in English.
English.
Well, you can write on Spanish, but you talk in English. The exams, for example, exams, yes, the exams are in English, yes. Please, it's a skill, okay? You can. You're talking all the time here. I can't understand the fear. You can do it. With a phone? No. We are going to see. Try to adjust the contents. I hope to present you tomorrow the instrument of evaluation for tomorrow. I hope to present you that document. I'm working there. Yes. Well, back to this description. This general vision, yes, you can see that is for getting information about the cultures and periods and getting identification about it. It's a problem because you don't have any problem with the information. With internet, you get at the instant. It's marvelous. But the problem, and so in the programs of television, Yes, yes. Well, we are talking about connection. Okay, you can go to USB, for example, and you can check anything, and you won't have this problem. But I'm saying that comparing with my time like student, you have this advantage. You can get the information in 1 second. I find and then done in my phone. But the problem, we say, not only me, is that this contextualization is not is about congruent of the object or elements. And this problem we can see, for example, in movies. Yesterday I saw a movie located on 19th century. And I saw a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes, for example, with dressing. A lot of mistakes, of course, the architectonical space. These, the candles, for example, in that time. The lights, for example. We need to take care about these details, and for example, the problem with the films or TV programs is that really, in general, they don't take care about details, and we try to get focused in some details because the details complement the architectonical concept of the space. Are details, yes. And for that reason, we are going to include maybe furniture in some examples of style. For example, in neoclassical, what's the difference in neoclassical style of certain furniture? Yes, and maybe I hope this helped you to understand the time, to understand the context and the concept about the style. Well, learning from past. Yes, learning from past. When we are writing the historical references, for example, the theoretical references when you are doing a research, maybe the historical references provides you of a good component to understand the phenomenon that you are abording. And then it refers the learning from the past. Much of the mistakes in architecture and urbanism, and then, for example, the problem in general is the breaking of modern architecture from this sense of the history. The modern tried to establish a new period without the charge of the history, and this was an important reflection. It's the reflection and the consequence of the 20th century. It's about how ignoring the past causes so many problems that we have today. For that reason, is the justify of this course. And then you can see the goal is not to know, not memory, not memorizing dates, our names and references. Is to understand the spirit of one style, trying to understand the spirit and the sense, how what people did in that time, how did, yes, how they work, how they build, how they establish communication, how they buy products, and how, for example, the interchange between different cultures has come like a result, an interesting evolution of forms, traditions, and of course the technology, the tools for construction. Okay? The sense here is trying to create a critical consciousness to appreciate the architecture in the past. You can say concepts like this, like a reflect of beliefs and way of lives of the people in that time. Okay? You can say that when you are studying certain style, you can identify the history and the background about the history on the site. And the objective here is trying to adjust your architectonical proposal to the history, to the local history, and then to be congruent, and to be to create new senses or new meanings about the use of the space in the zone. It is the principal objective in in history of architecture. We try to learn about the past. We try to get the meanings in that time and trying to understand. When we are reading, for example, about the history of one culture, we can understand the character of the people. For example, when we are reading the book of Alexis de Tocqueville, for example, who's an author. The Democracy in America is one example, is one book which manifests the origin of the culture of North America. And then when we are reading this document, this text from 19th century, we can understand why people in the United States are acting as this way, and we can understand why the majorities voted for Trump, for example. The history teaches us about the character and senses of the people. When we are reviewing the history of Mexico, for example, in 19th century, we can see the influence of North America in many concepts and the structure and organization as a country. And if we can see this part of history in our country, we can see that at the same time we acquired some values, for example, the liberty, the democracy, etc., were French values, and then our country origins the actual structure of institutions that we have right now, which is different from the United States, but we have, for the other side, a strong baggage about the Spanish Imperium, and then, of course, our heritage from Mesoamerica. We have this mix, but we, for example, we can say that we are not studying us like some element isolated in the world. We can say all influences. It's the same with architecture. In architecture, we try to read some codes, some characteristics, which sources are from the outside. But I can say that the references here, the historical references here, that the program uses is about Occident, but not Oriental references. I hope to add some additions or some references, as many possible. Yes. For example, in 19th century, about the Imperium in Japan, for example, and China, were so intensive. And also, you can say in the universities in America that some units of research are focusing on Oriental studies. They have influence about philosophy, about technology. Yes, in this case, the commercial traveling were so important. And then, for that reason, in addition of this content, I hope to apply maybe this ingredient, what is in comparative history. What were happened in Europe, in America, in Africa, yes, in all the continents, as many possible. And you can, of course, if you are finding some article or some curiosity, we can get insert to the material. Okay, you can say the unit for this program to obtain knows to understand and recognize the formal aspects, formal, constructive, and conceptual aspects of the principal architectonical manifestations influenced by the historical thought from siglo 15 to 19. This is through, of course, the research and analyzing the fundamentals. You are going to get the instrumental reference to analyzing theoretical concepts. And of course, in the same time, you can obtain this knowledge about from the personal interesting about the references who were created from representative architects. This for applying in the creativity in your designs. For example, when you are proposing a remodelation, for example, or covering something, or to propose a new project with a background, a historical background, and then of course this is to apply in your exercise of design. Remember, for example, one of the educative experiences that we can apply this, for example, is architectonical design details, for example, where you need to create an ambient, not only a space or a closed space. You need to put interest in some things. And we have we hope to do some proposals in this kind to applying the knowledge it, and then of course the style to be congruent with the case, and of course the respect to the canon or code or historical code according to the style. Okay. From here, some question? No? Do you improve or slow or more or faster? No? It's okay? Okay. Ah, perfect.
We have to recognize all the years
Yes.
in all the work, or only one space?
Only Occidental reference, according to the program. According to the program. But I would like to see more references, because the history is not only is not only Occident. I don't know. You can go and travel and work. I don't know. I many Latins, for example, in Australia. Are opportunities in other countries, and then it demands to understand the meanings and the concepts, and or you don't know if you are working at the when you get ready. I don't know if maybe some Oriental people requires your service, and you have to design a space according to the senses of meanings of these people. Yes? Please, it's recording. Yes? Yes. No problem. If you want to talk outside, please. Yes, it's no problem. And then, the importance of comparative history today remarks one problem about the multiculturality, and is to getting accepted by the others, and is not seen, for example, to Oriental people like different. No, not of this. You need to understand and recognize different understanding and patterns of use of the space. Why are them? For example, I say that the philosophy is the clue to understand the sense and the principal characteristic of the space. For example, the same philosophy, for example, provides an explanation about the importance of meditation and the open space, for example. And we can see, and one of this example is the Oriental influence in some stage of Baroque, for example, in gardens. Yes? This space is cleaning in space, and you can see all the line, and then one element, yes, a stone, and the concepts in this space from the Occidental thoughts is so different. I'm going to share the reference of one film, for example, in that it's a curiosity. It's about the design of one garden, about neoclassical influence, and the principal character, were influenced by the Oriental philosophy, and then with a tool tried to create a Zen space. But for all the people in that time, they believed that the girl, the principal character, were possessed by the devil. Okay? And this talks about, well, it's only a film, I know. But it provides an important reference about the resistance to the new ideas. And you can see on history that all not recognized or uncommon, it's of course product of the devil, the evil, meaning. In Occident, you can see this separation between the good and the evil.
It's Oriental or Occidental influence?
Here in program we have Occidental references, but we try to see some ingredients, some Oriental ingredients, some Oriental references to establish a relationship of some cases. In the film, for example, provides an example of one case, the design of one garden, and there is one example of the resistance, but it's not resistance, physical resistance or denying to a new idea. It's about the philosophy. What's the good? What's the evil? We are going to see this in a detail. Yes, of course, at the last of the 14th century, for example, we are at the end of medieval times, and concept and understanding of the space is so important to understand the character of first spaces in America after the conquest. Mm-hmm.
For example, in Occidental, and one example is spiritual centers.
Mm?
Spiritual centers.
Yes, it's important. The spiritual keeps the sense of many decisions, and of course it proposed the habits. And for example, we are going to see the way in that the calendar were created, according to stations, according, for example, to different time, according to live the time, and of course is it's about how the context is perceived by the people, and the people what opportunities have or lack of opportunities. Because, for example, they are not reading books. For example, in Baroque, people read the architecture because people doesn't know to read. Museum? Well, the concept of museum is not in this time. We have, for example, in medieval times, we don't have the concept of museum. We have the concept of collections. The kings has the collections of, for example, I don't know how it translated. Let me see. Sorry. Is this work? I don't know. Is the back, for example? The kings had a collection, but the museum is from the 19th century, because in 19th century, at the end of 18th century and 19th, of course, were created the international events where they changed information. For example, elephants, for example, and the concept of circus, for example, were in this time because were in a certain way is the principal origin maybe of or the first manifestation of globalization, because travel begins. Remember Titanic and then blah, yes, and began people traveling and carrying different ideas and things from Europe. For example, in our country in 1902, in the architecture and different things, you can see, for example, objects from that time and some reference about the traveling, but were so difficult to travel to City of Mexico or to another cities of Mexico because of the lack of security in the ways. Were so insecure, were so plenty of I don't know. We're not safe to travel in that time.
They were incorporating things. They were incorporating things.
Yes, and sometimes, and then this is important to consider. Like in this moment that we are describing, for example, some characteristics of 19th century. We hope to understand the principal characteristics of these knowledge theories about these themes. We are going to see this. Yes, under Renaissance, and through some of the styles like Manierism, and of course the Renaissance in France and Spain, and New Spain. Yes, this is so important. We try to identify the different styles of Baroque in Mexico. For example, architectonical cases in San Luis Potosí, in Puebla, and other places. Some characteristics are characteristic. So depending the origin or the site. And then you can see we have these terms about with Rococo, Neoclassical. Of course, I hope you enjoy this about the architecture, which established the fundamentals of modern architecture. Historical, the architecture, the modern architecture are here. Yes? Not only Le Corbusier, no. Just in that, okay? Historicism and eclectics. Of course, the engineers and examples in Mexico. You can see the School of Chicago, for example. I hope to cover this theme here, and of course the Art Nouveau. I hope you enjoy this. Yes, it's one beautiful style, I think. Yes. Well, tomorrow I will present you the instrument of evaluation for this program, for this course. But in general, works of research, your participation, in English, of course, please. need to improve. You need to improve. You can do it. You can do it. And then generating this I propose some codes, some references to identify the architectonical case with the author and style, and of course the date. Yes, this is for trying to identify, and then you can see here like an evidence to prove the comprehension and assimilation of historical dates. Okay? Historical data, sorry. Historical data. Yes? In English? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, and draw. Yes? Please, I'm going to show you. Well, tomorrow I said you, but for example, 14 in September, according with the calendar. Please get note. Get note, please, about the calendar. Okay? Get note about the 14. Maybe we are going to have the first evidence and the first quote. You can see the first quote about the about assistances and yes, and then please we have 10 sessions from there, and then maybe we have 2 opportunities, but not at all. Please try to get your justification and to talk about the academical secretary and try to save these things. Well, in this date, 14 in September, the first evidence. Second evidence, 13 in October, Friday 13. Yes. Friday. Yes. Friday 13. Yes. And the third evidence. Yes. Mm-hmm. You can't see? What you can see? For light? No. Only we are commenting for today the program. For tomorrow we are going to see how to solve about the lights and the present. You can follow the presentation in Eminus. I'm going to share all the presentations there. Yes. For tomorrow, the instrument of evaluation. Yes. No. I'm going to present you. For tomorrow is the reflection about the importance of history in architecture. Yes. You get note about that. This is the homework. You are going to begin. I'm going to pass you the microphone, and you can say. It's all your idea. Yes.
How many evaluaciones we have in the semester?
So sorry. How many what? Translate. Use your phone and translate, please. You can do it. Three tests. Three tests. The first in September 14. The first in September 14. Yes? Note that, please. Second, okay. Second, okay. Second is in October 13. Friday 13. Second. Yes. And the third is in November 10. Friday 10. No, finish is at the end of November. Yes, 30 of in November. Okay. One day after. Okay. Remember that I need to provide the three lists with the assistances. The first is in September, remember? Yes. Second in October. Yes. And the third, the 10th. And of course, with that, we will have the information to know about ordinary or extraordinary exam. Okay? We hope the expectation here is to pay attention and to pass in ordinary. But it depends of you, not of me. Okay? Some questions? No? No? Okay. Well, about sources, yes, the sources, some of these are in Jalapa. I hope they sent us a copy. But if don't, I'm trying to prepare the references and material for the classes with another books. I will show what were. You can consult in the down, okay, down in the library, okay, and of course something research. Very interesting. I hope you enjoy this program, and it will be and it serves to you to improving at the same time the English language. I don't know if you have some question, some reflection, suggest. No? Well, but for the moment, we are coming to the finish of this first class. I hope, and again, I hope you enjoy it. Okay.